Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today is the 16th of February 2021. Alright everyone, let's get into the news from the last 24 hours or so. So just a tweet here that I wanted to kick off today's episode with. It's from Santiago. I've spoken about him a few times on the Refuel, so I'll just read out the tweet here. He said basically, paradigm shifting tech like the internet gets adopted because it is a plus 10 times improvement. Faster, better, cheaper. Dial-up internet was prohibitively expensive, so too is Ethereum at times, both breakthroughs no less. Cheaper is the last piece to resolve leading to mainstream adoption. End tweet there. So, I mean, I've spoken about this a lot on the Refuel, obviously, over the past few weeks. You know, the Ethereum high gas fees has a lot of people kind of, I guess, you know, feeling crappy about Ethereum, right? They kind of can't use it. It's become too expensive for them. And we have all these kind of other chains now talking about being, you know, I guess better, more scalable, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to rehash what I've spoken about before with regards to that, but I did want to hit on the note here that, you know, if you go back throughout history in general and look at kind of like all the technological advances, they always started out like this. They always started out like super expensive and then got cheaper over time. And I've spoken about that on the Refuel before, but I think this tweet just kind of encapsulated that pretty well. I think, you know, when living in the moment right now, you kind of like lose sight of, I guess, like the long term picture, because you can imagine like if you ever experienced dial up internet, you know how annoying that was, right? And you thought to yourself, wow, this is, you know, yes, I can access the internet. Internet's really cool, but doing so is like super annoying because dial up, you know, you had to dial up, literally manually dial up, and then you know you lose your connection if the phone rang or something, and you couldn't use the phone line at the same time as kind of the internet. And there wasn't really widespread adoption of mobile phones kind of in that kind of era. There wasn't smartphones or anything like that. So, you know, that was super annoying and everyone was complaining about it, right? You'd always complain about it. And that's the same thing with gas fees today. Everyone's complaining about them. You know, it makes things, you know, kind of shitty to use, right? For lack of a better term there. You know, it's not unusable, but it's like, it's definitely not the best user experience right now. Of course, right? So I think we're going to see the same kind of thing happen where, you know, Ethereum scaling via layer 2 and with ETH 2 as well, and with kind of some layer 1 improvements like possibly increasing the gas limit if we implement some of the technology that's been talked about. I think that will be our broadband moment where, you know, the end users won't really feel the gas fees anymore. They'll still pay like small fees on layer 2, but they'll be tiny, right? They're absolutely tiny. I think on Loopring it's like 2 cents for a kind of a Loopring trade or something, which is obviously much less than I think, you know, $30 or $40 for Uniswap these days. So I think that's where we're going to get to. So yeah, I just thought Santiago's tweet here was a great way of encapsulating that, and it's, you know, it's something that I think about pretty much every day now. And, you know, not just because of it's something that like I deal with every day being in DeFi, but also because, you know, given that I have like a pretty large following on Twitter, every time I tweet anything, I always get some reply guys, I like to call them, you know, talking about Ethereum killers. And you can actually see on one of my tweets here, I tweeted kind of like thank you to Santiago here, and someone replied with lol, and that's why ETH will inevitably pass the baton to other chains. And it's just, you know, I mean, it's just frustrating, right? It's like super frustrating. I do so much educational kind of work through the newsletter, you know, through the YouTube channel. You know, on Twitter, I like to post things there. And, you know, I talk to so many people in DMs and stuff. And then I just get these like really random nothing burger comments all the time. And it's kind of like disheartening. So if I sound like a broken record talking about this stuff on the Refuel, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but the reason is because I want to kind of like build I guess a community of people who can go and educate people themselves. Like, you know, everything that I'm teaching you on the Refuel, through my newsletter, through whatever, I want you to kind of take that on board and kind of educate other people with. You know, I'm only one person. I can only do so much, right? I've got the same 24 hours in a day that everyone else has. But I think the more we educate people and the kind of the more we do that in a constructive way, the better it is. And unfortunately, like I'm getting to the point where I just like stop replying to these people now, especially if they're going to be like really kind of, I guess, basically be a smartass about it, because it's just not worth my time anymore to do that. And, you know, a lot of them aren't even open to being educated. They just straight up come to me and go, you know, XYZ chain is going to kill Ethereum. And I'm like, okay, well, obviously you don't care to know, you know, why Ethereum has these issues or why it has high fees. You don't care to know about anything else there. You just want to, I don't know, promote your kind of Ethereum killer. So from that perspective, I've pretty much like kind of stopped replying to those people. But in general, there are sometimes people that will come up to you. They come up to me and they genuinely want to know why the fees are so high. And then when you explain to them, exactly why, basically Ethereum is very decentralized, we don't want to kind of compromise on that to achieve scale, they tend to understand. And I think the learning curve is still very steep in crypto, especially around these subjects, because it's very easy for someone to go on to say like Binance Smart Chain, right? That's centralized, and kind of experience, the same sort of things that they would experience on Ethereum, whether that be an AMM, like, I think it's called Pancake Swap, that's like a straight copy of Uniswap. And they might think it's like equivalent when, they don't see below the surface level. They don't see that, Binance Smart Chain is just centralized, right? It's not decentralized. It doesn't have what Ethereum has. It is just like a straight up centralized clone. So not to pick on that, but I thought that was just like an obvious example. So yeah, they need to be educated here. And to be fair, like I was a noob as well when I first got into this stuff, especially when I first got into Ethereum in 2017. I wouldn't say I was a fan of other chains. But I kind of like bought into them. I invested in Polkadot's kind of ICO in 2017. Because one reason because like I wanted to make money, but I mean the tokens were locked for like 3 years. But the second reason was because of Gavin Wood. Like I bought into his vision. Like he's a great kind of presenter and speaker. But then as I progressed through the bear market and I learned more about Ethereum and I came at it from like a different approach, I kind of realized that these other chains like just didn't make much sense, a lot of them. And Ethereum made the most sense. Ethereum had the most kind of network effect, and that wasn't going to change anytime soon. And that thesis has played out essentially, right? It hasn't changed yet. Maybe it will change in the future. I don't know. I'm betting that it won't change too much. But yeah, and I guess like enough on that topic. I don't want to bore you with another kind of rant about, Ethereum killers and stuff, but I think it's very important for it to be top of mind because it's definitely something that, I assume that you're all seeing in your day to day, especially on Twitter. And I've had a few people message me and they're really frustrated too. They're like, they're kind of like, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know how to hit back at these people. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. And really, I mean, at the end of the day, if someone's not willing to learn and they're just going to be like really annoying about it, then it's not worth your time to educate them. So something like that to keep in mind as well, for sure. So I saw this on Twitter today. Emiliano released this new website called the Reviews DAO. So this was based on, and he says here that recent events, I guess like events being the economic exploits and hacks within DeFi, has shown us just how important security is. There's a lack of supply for kind of audits and things like that compared to demand. And I spoke about how auditors are pretty much backlogged to, I think, April or May right now. So basically, this website's supposed to be a peer-to-peer review kind of space. So you can go there and you can kind of get like peer review on your code and on your smart contracts and things like that. And, I spoke about this yesterday, right? Where I said that we're seeing a lot more teams now just do peer review rather than go to an auditor because they want to get their kind of app to mainnet and they don't have time to wait 3 or 4 months for it to be audited. So yeah, I'm really glad to see this. I mean, I tried to go to the site before, but it wasn't working. Maybe it'll load in the background here if I open it up here. But there's a thread here explaining exactly what it is and how it's going to work and everything like that. Tasha from Alpha Finance kind of like replied and said, this is great. She would like to join, which is really cool to see here. And a bunch of other people replied as well. So yeah, great little initiative here. For those who don't know, Emiliano is like a white hat kind of hacker. He does a lot of security related stuff and kind of knows his stuff here. And he's also doing a bunch of other things. You can see in his profile here, he's a co-founder of Marquee Exchange, DeFi Italy, Synthetix Link. I mean, there's a bunch of different projects here. So he's obviously very deep within the ecosystem. So it's great to see him putting this kind of community initiative together. So yeah, great going there. So Synthetix tweeted out today that they've partnered with Illuvium, which is a new kind of game that's actually being built by Synthetix's founder, Kane Warwick's brother, called Kieran Warwick. And they pretty much like look like twins, but they're not. Like it's funny when I go to Kieran's profile, I look at the picture and I'm like, wow, like it looks exactly like Kane, but I mean that makes sense because they're brothers. But anyway, aside from that, Illuvium has a token, of course, that they're bringing out called the ILV token, and you can actually get some of these if you join the Illuvium Discord and if you're already part of the Synthetix Discord. So being part of both of those, you'll get airdrop some tokens here. But for those who don't know, Illuvium is essentially a new, I guess you could call it, blockchain game coming out. They've been teasing it for a while. It's launching on Immutable X in Q3 of 2021. Immutable X is the scaling solution coming from Immutable, the builders of Gods Unchained. So that's coming out soon, and it's like an NFT kind of scaling solution. So Illuvium is basically a collection and auto battler game. So they're designing all these different like unique monsters and things like that, as you can see here, the Synthetix one, limited edition here. To like kind of battle in I don't know, I'm assuming it's going to be like an online battler sort of thing, so I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, they're kind of slowly leaking out information here, which I thought was really cool. So definitely go check this out. You know, if you're already part of Synthetix Discord, there's no harm in joining the Illuvium one and then getting some of these ILV tokens, because I mean, given like it's close, the close relationship between Synthetix and Illuvium, and given the hype behind this that I'm seeing right now, I think these tokens could end up being worth something. So, you know, there's no harm in getting an airdrop, that's for sure. So this, I think, was the biggest news of the last 24 hours. So this YouTuber called MKBHD or Marques Brownlee, he's a very, very popular YouTuber. He's got 13.6 million subscribers, and he's a tech YouTuber. So he does a lot of mobile phone reviews and stuff like that. He's been around for quite a while. I watch him pretty regularly on YouTube. He's pretty good at what he does. But basically today he put out a video on Dogecoin. Now, he basically explained what Dogecoin kind of was and how it works, and, you know, touched on cryptocurrency in general, like Bitcoin and like, you know, altcoins. He even used the term altcoins, which I thought was pretty wild. He didn't really talk about Ethereum, unfortunately. But halfway through the video, he actually calls out Tron. Now, you would have seen, and I spoke about it on the Refuel, there were a bunch of kind of like C-grade celebrities putting out tweets about Tron recently, and everyone knew that they were paid tweets, and they weren't disclosed that they were paid tweets at the time by these celebrities, which is actually illegal in the US, and the SEC is probably going to go after these people now. But what ended up happening was Marques revealed that he was actually contacted by someone. I don't think he said who it was, and Justin Sun actually denied that it was anyone in the Tron Foundation. But basically, Marques was contacted about promoting Tron via his Twitter account, right? Paid promotions there. He went through the email that he received and basically called it out. And, you know, this was a pretty big deal, right? Because this is a huge audience that's not only kind of learning about crypto for the first time, but also kind of getting a taste of some of the scams that are going on, right? And some of the scammy stuff that goes on. And I think, you know, Marques showing this sort of stuff's going to catch the eyes of the regulators, and the regulators are going to see this and be like, well, okay, we have to look into this now, because they did end up finding some of the other celebrities that used to kind of promote ICOs and things like that a lot of money. And, you know, I think they should do the same thing for these celebrities who are promoting this stuff. Like, this is some of the grossest stuff out there, especially when it's not disclosed that it's a paid tweet. And I really hope that we can clean up the mess here. But, you know, outside of that, I just thought it was wild that someone like Marques was covering cryptocurrencies. I think he has a close relationship with Elon Musk, and obviously Elon has been tweeting about Dogecoin a lot, so that caught everyone's attention. But yeah, he basically went over what Dogecoin was, what Bitcoin was, what the altcoins were, and very briefly touched on Ethereum. Didn't even really touch on Ethereum, which was a bit sad. But I think, you know, as I said here on Twitter, this just shows that we're mainstream now, right? And I wrote about this a bit more in the Daily Gwei newsletter. But crypto is mainstream, and you know, I say this a lot, but like at this point, you know, you'd be hard pressed to find someone in the developed country, in the developed world or in a developed country that hasn't heard of Bitcoin by now, right? And a lot of them would have heard of Ethereum by now. A lot of them would have heard of NFTs and DeFi, but you know, I mean, probably a lot less than would have heard about Bitcoin, for example. But yeah, I don't think, you know, pretty much anyone that I ever talk to about cryptocurrency, they might ask me, what do you do for a living, blah, blah. I always start with, do you know what Bitcoin is? Like, I don't start with Ethereum because, if I suspect that they're like total noobs and actually aren't in the scene at all, I'm just going to assume that they know Bitcoin. And, pretty much 10 times out of 10, like 100% of the time, they will have heard of Bitcoin before. And, these people come from all walks of life. They're not just like tech people or like finance people. They come from all different kind of industries, and they've heard of Bitcoin because it's been in the news for so long now, right? It's been in the news multiple times. It was in the news in 13-14 bubble, in the 17 bubble, in this current bubble. So yeah, most people have heard of it. And of course, people have heard of it because of these billion-dollar companies like Tesla putting it on their balance sheets and stuff as well. So yeah, crypto is mainstream now. Embrace it. I mean, I've said on the refuel before how I think social signals aren't really going to work anymore as top signals. Celebrity shilling random coins is not going to work anymore. And I think, a lot of the top signals have already gone off for me, and we're still going up, and I'm still very bullish. So yeah, in general, that's something to keep in mind too. But I mean, go check out this video as well. I'll link it in the YouTube description. It's a good little video to watch, and if you're into like tech and mobile phones and stuff like that, definitely go check out Marques's channel. It's actually really, really good, and I've enjoyed it over the years for sure. So Hayden Adams from Uniswap put out a tweet today saying that Uniswap had processed over $100 billion in cumulative volume since it launched, with, as you can see on the chart here, the majority of that volume happening, from, I guess, like June 2020, the start of DeFi summer, to today. This growth has been absolutely insane, right? Like $100 billion in cumulative volume, which is really, really great to see here. I like to see like how the growth kind of started, I guess, in DeFi summer, but it's just gone exponential since and hasn't slowed down. Now, given that this is cumulative volume, this isn't going to go down, right? But it can kind of like go flat, right? If it wasn't growing anymore, you would see like a flat trend, but it's just growing exponentially here, which is really, really crazy to see. So I don't expect this to slow down at all. Given the rate of growth here, given we're in a bull market, and given, the timing, I guess, I could see us getting to potentially $1 trillion of cumulative volume for Uniswap by the end of this year even, right? Depending on how hot the market gets. Now, of course, Uniswap's going to be coming out with V3. They're going to come out with a layer 2 solution. So that's going to be even better. Their volume is actually, like, even though it's really impressive, it's still limited by the kind of scalability on layer 1, especially with the gas fees and stuff, right? Because a lot of small traders are now priced out. And a lot of this activity is just like, I guess, traders who want to pay those fees and kind of like whales and stuff like that. So very, very interested to see how quickly we get to 1 trillion from here, especially with V3 coming out and layer 2 kind of coming out for Uniswap as well. So yeah, very, very interested to see how fast this grows. So Charged Particles announced their pre-seed round led by the Lao, CoinGecko, led by the Lao with participation from CoinGecko, Parify Capital, Fourth Revolution Capital, and a bunch of other investors here. For those who don't know, Charged Particles is building a standard that allows NFTs to do more. Now, what this means is that they're trying to make NFTs more productive, right? To do more within, I guess, DeFi, especially, right? Using it as collateral or generating yield on your NFTs and stuff like that, or just doing more interesting stuff with it. So yeah, if that's something that you're interested in, definitely go check out the project. I haven't really looked into it too deeply myself yet. It's on my backlog for sure. But they've raised some money from some pretty good investors here and some good angels as well, like Leighton Cusack from Pull Together, Tyler Ward from Barnbridge, Stani from Aave, of course. There's no Kane that I can see here. Remember how I was saying yesterday how Kane and Stani are in pretty much like every single kind of fundraising round these days. Kane isn't here, so Stani's going at it alone. But still, I think that's pretty cool to see. So yeah, definitely go check this out if this is something that you're interested in. So a really cool tool came out from Instadapp today called DeFi Simulation. So what this tool allows you to do, and they kind of partnered with Tenderly to do this, is that you can simulate different kind of DeFi actions gas-free. So it's basically a fully simulated kind of environment. It doesn't do any mainnet transactions, but it gives you a playground or a sandbox to kind of play in to get a feel for the different kind of apps on Ethereum, right? Without having to spend gas. So I thought this is really, really cool. And you can simply go to defi.instadapp.io here, and you can kind of like load up your wallet and everything like that with like I guess, play money essentially, and then play around with apps like Maker, Compound, Aave, Uniswap, do swaps and things like that. And just like basically do everything you would do on mainnet in a simulated kind of sandbox environment. So if this is something that you kind of interested in because you're maybe newer to the ecosystem and you don't want to have to experiment by spending money on gas fees, which obviously is not cheap right now, then this is something for you. And I think this is a really great tool to onboard more people into the ecosystem, right? We're going to have trouble onboarding people when they have to pay $50 in fees to do a Uniswap trade. So this is just like letting them do that, without the fees. So kudos to the Instadapp and Tenderly teams here for putting this together. I think it's going to be a huge value add to all of DeFi. So Ribbon Finance kind of came out of, I guess, kind of stealth today, and they kind of announced themselves, and it's kind of like on mainnet, I think. But basically what this is, it's a new project focused on creating structured products within DeFi. Now, structured products are some of the most exotic products you'll find in finance. They are not typically products that retail investors will ever kind of play with. So stuff like perpetual swaps, zero coupon bonds, options, and stuff like that. These kind of fall into, I guess, like what a structured product is. So I guess the TLDR on structured products is that they package multiple derivatives into a single product. So they will package like, perpetual swaps and options or whatever into a single product that anyone can kind of like trade with without worrying about the underlying complexities here. Now, obviously, this is not a product that you as a retail investor probably ever kind of touched. These are products that are typically traded by people who do this for a living, right? Finance professionals, traders, banks, institutions. But this is DeFi. And in DeFi, we bring these products to retail investors, right? We bring these products to the everyday person. And this is what Ribbon Finance is trying to do. So really, really cool to see this here. You can definitely go check this out in the YouTube description for a full breakdown of what this is if you want to learn more about it. But again, this is just more kind of democratization of finance coming to DeFi, because you would never in your life touch these products if you weren't one of those kind of people like a trader or an institution or someone in finance. Because one, you could argue that I guess regular people don't need access to this, but at the same time, who needs access to it, right? Like you should be able to trade whatever you want, wherever you want, from wherever in the world that you want, right? So, and that's, I guess, like why we're all such big believers in DeFi, because it lets us do all this stuff in a non-custodial way, and there's no gatekeepers here, and there's no one telling us what can and can't be done, and no one kind of like blocking us from accessing these products. So yeah, kudos to Ribbon Finance for kind of coming out of stealth here, and I think coming onto mainnet, as they say here. I'm excited to see them and how they grow from here. So Alpha Finance put out their kind of like recap roadmap and looking forward piece here. So obviously there was an exploit that happened with Alpha Homora V2 with the Iron Bank with Cream and everything like that, which I covered yesterday, so I won't go into that now. But they released a blog post basically recapping what happened, going through a roadmap of what's going forward now and kind of looking forward. And this was a very, very professional kind of response, I think, across the board from Alpha Finance here. And, this is one of the reasons why I have Alpha tokens and I'm invested in this project, is because I am very, very impressed with their execution, not only on the product side, but how they handle the community stuff, how they've handled this kind of exploit, and what they're doing to kind of remedy this going forward. So for a full kind of breakdown, you can read the piece here. But I guess the TLDR is that they're going to, they haven't come up with how they're going to kind of make users, I guess, like make the debt whole just yet. I think they're still coming up with that. But they're promising to do more kind of internal reviews, peer reviews, and audits on V2 of their protocol, which means that V2 is, I think, not really operational now from the borrowing side of things. Until they've done all this. So yeah, it's kind of like in limited functionality right now, but you can still use V1 to do a bunch of different things here and stuff like that. And they also kind of go on about how they think that, DeFi is kind of at an inflection point here, and it needs to shift towards a much more secure and robust ecosystem, and Alpha kind of wants to lead that here. So yeah, very, very awesome to see this. Go give this a read if you haven't yet. So Owocki from Gitcoin put out these stats saying that Gitcoin just passed their Q4 2020 numbers with only halfway through Q1 in 2021. So this number's been growing quite fast here. And for those who remember, we haven't had the next Gitcoin grants round yet. So grants round 9 is scheduled to start in March. And as Owocki notes here, he reckons this number is going to explode once that round starts, and I think it will as well. I think, so many people and so many companies and DeFi apps have made so much money over the past few months that money's getting fed right back into the ecosystem through Gitcoin here. And not only from that, from individuals as well, donating to projects that they like. I mean, I've spoken about how I'm going to be bugging you guys almost every day to go donate to projects once the matching round starts, because it's the best way to give back at the end of the day. There's no better way on Ethereum to give back to people. And I think a lot of people wait until the matching round starts because they want to get their donations matched from these sponsors, which is only logical, right? I as a beneficiary of Gitcoin grants over the years as part of the Daily Gwei and ETH Hub, it definitely, helps a lot, and it makes me feel really awesome that people value my work and what I'm doing. And that is a reason why so many people love it, because a lot of it is open source work. A lot of it is not monetized, not just within, I guess, like the tech side, but the media side as well. As you guys know, the Daily Gwei across all of its channels is completely free. I don't charge, subscription fees. There's no ads or anything like that. And that's the same for a lot of this open source software where, it's open source, so it's free for anyone to use, and it provides a lot of value to different people. But typically the teams building it don't extract any kind of value from it themselves. They might make money from doing kind of like other things, like they may be auditing, they may run a business on the side for auditing and stuff like that, right? Or they may be doing other work like bug bounties and all that sort of stuff. So for them to kind of like get money kind of donated to them and given back from the ecosystem for things that actually drive a lot of value and kind of like hold up these billion-dollar protocols that we're building feels really, really good. So yeah, anyway, I'll be ranting more about that, I'm sure over the next few weeks, and especially when the grants round starts, for you to all go donate here. So yeah, congrats to Gitcoin on this growth. It's really awesome to see. All right, that's it for today's episode, everyone. Thank you again for listening and watching. If you haven't done so, give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel, join the Daily Gwei Discord, and subscribe to that newsletter, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.